It's episode 7, let's get started. Last episode, I quickly built up this last little bit of the village and then added a few trees along the back, completing my starter base. Because I've been doing so much building lately, the original plan for this video was to do some chill, grindy kind of tasks. And I still will be, but I got a bit carried away in a test world, so I might throw some building in there as well. Usually I'm at least a few minutes into the video before I find one of these. Guess we can get this out of the way nice and early. Since my starter base is complete, it's time to start something new. And the new mega project that I'll be starting today is a guardian farm. It definitely doesn't need to be a mega project, but the way I'm doing it, it kind of is. This monument's only a couple hundred blocks away from my starter base, so it's pretty perfect location-wise. I'm not sure if this is one of the ones I rated in episode 5, so I brought this... Nope, definitely not rated yet. So I guess I'll just change real quick and then kill all the elder guardians. And getting a few more sponges would also be really helpful. I said a few more sponges. Please? I guess I won't be getting a few more sponges then. Going AFK over an ocean monument would actually be a pretty decent way to get some ink sacs. I just finished collecting them all and there's probably already another 20 there. Anyway, a rated ocean monument isn't going to be that useful to me, so the next thing I want to do is to drain the whole area. I know that there's plenty of Guardian Farm designs that don't require draining the monument, but I'm going to do it anyway because I think it looks cool, so I guess we better head back home and get some sand. Yeah, I'm probably going to need more than 21. Which I guess means it's time to destroy a desert. I have no idea what I was thinking when I only brought one shovel. Just from mining out this area, I've already got about 4 shulker boxes worth of sand. I'm not exactly sure how much sand I'll need. I could probably put a rough number up on screen or something, but I have a feeling it's going to be a bit more than 4 boxes. So I guess I better head back home and get a few more shovels. I'd like to do a few more than this, but I think I only have enough emeralds to enchant 5 diamond pickaxes fully. I know my netherite supply is getting pretty low, but hopefully I should have enough to get all these upgraded. Perfect, that's more than I thought actually. And I think 5 shovels should be more than enough to get all the sand I need, so let's get back to it. It may not look like I mined too much of the desert, but I actually ended up with over 12 shulker boxes completely full of sand. So now I can finally start working on my guardian farm. Here we are. I keep forgetting how far away that desert is. Just like I said a few minutes ago, I'm going to be draining this monument, so the first thing I need to do is build a big barrier going around it, and I decided that I wanted it to be a circle because I think that'd look the best. So I'm starting by building one of these sand pillars next to each of the corners of the monument. And these 4 pillars will act as the kind of corners of the circle, so the next thing I need to do is just connect all of them. Which is a lot easier said than done, because this is not exactly what I would call a small circle. I feel like no matter where I go, there's always a wandering trader. You know what, I think I'm going to let this one live. I've placed in the first couple of layers now, and I'm starting to realize just how much sand something like this actually needs, so hopefully 11 boxes is enough. I just did the math, and with the circle being 84 blocks across, it equals out to be about 4 stacks of sand per layer. So with most of this area being at least 20 blocks deep, that's going to add up pretty quickly. Anyway, I guess I better get back to placing sand. Well, that ended up being quite a lot of sand. Luckily, I mined way more than I needed at the beginning of the episode, so I didn't even use half of it, but it's still a lot of sand. Seriously though, I'm actually getting so many ink sacs from just swimming around this area. Like, no matter where you look, there's always a bunch just floating in the water. Usually when building, I always try to have a 1-block center, but because it had to line up with those 4 pillars, I actually ended up having a 2-block one. Well, I mean, it definitely could have been avoided, but I'll make it work. Probably the worst part about doing all these projects in and around the water is that even during the day, you constantly have to be dealing with these drowns. However, the tridents are pretty nice. Just from working on this project, I already have 5 tridents, and then back at home I have a bunch more from working on the village. Oh, so since I'm here, remember that parrot I got in episode 2? Well, during a thunderstorm, I had this message come up. So, yeah. Anyway, back to the Guardian farm. Although this sand wall will hold back all the water once I have this whole area drained, it really doesn't look that good, so the next thing I want to do is replace it with glass. Could I have started by making out of glass? Yep. Would it have been smart? Of course. But did I? No. So I guess I better start smelting all the sand down. Believe it or not, that did actually take a little bit longer than 7 seconds. So in the meantime, my storage platform has got a little bit messier. I probably should have built a super smelter somewhere in my starter base, but I didn't, so I ended up just building a really basic one over here. And of course I used it to smelt down all this glass, which ended up being about 5,000, so I definitely needed something to smelt it all down. And then over here I have a little patch of grass with a cornflower on it, so I can get all the dye I needed for the glass. But I think I'm done with all this now, so I can take it down. Much better. In the meantime, I've also finished that box of cooked pork chop that I got in episode 4, so I've just been eating this bread that I stole from a village. But once I'm done this Guardian farm, I'll have enough fish to last me forever, so that's another benefit of this project. Anyway, I think it's time I actually start draining this thing, which means I get to place even more sand. Yay. And I'm pretty sure the best way to clear out a large amount of water like this is just to place a sand wall every 4 blocks, then just clear the water in between them out with sponges. Which reminds me, I also need to set up a way to dry out all these sponges. And there's 2 methods of doing this. The first is just to smelt them up in a furnace. And a lot of people don't know about this, but if you have a bucket in the fuel slot, it will actually fill it up with water when it's done smelting. It's not a very useful feature unless you're making like a puzzle map or something, but it's kinda interesting. Anyway, the second method, which is the one I prefer to use, is just to go to the nether and place them down, which causes them to instantly dry. And then you can just use a hoe to insta-mine them. And then once I'm finished clearing out this whole area, I promise I'll do something a little bit more interesting, or else next episode's intro will be something like this. In the last episode, I went over to a desert and picked up a bunch of sand. I then came back and placed it all back down again. So yeah, I'll definitely do some building later. But there's not a whole lot left to say, so let's just do this in a time lapse. Many hours later, all I have left to do is finish taking down these final 2 walls, and then the monument is completely drained. Well, the outside of it anyway. I'm not sure how well it turned out in the time-lapse, but taking down these sand walls with the torches is definitely the most satisfying part for me. Well, really, it's the only satisfying part. Also, before I started actually draining out the water, I went ahead and raided a few more monuments, because I only had, I think, 46 sponges. Which is enough for smaller projects, like draining out that little bit of water above my mines, but this isn't exactly a small project. Anyway, my luck with the sponge rooms continued in the first one I raided, where I once again found no sponges, and it was getting to the point where I was starting to think I was doing something wrong. But then in the next two I raided, I had no trouble finding sponges, so I guess I really was just getting unlucky. I ended up getting just under 2 stacks of sponges, which was definitely nice to have for this project. Now all that's left is this final pillar of sand. Well, that ended up being quite a lot of work. But I'm not done yet. I still need to remove this monument and flatten the whole area around it. But before I do that, there's something I need to take care of. And that's back at home, where I've completely run out of shulker boxes. And I imagine I'm going to need quite a few shulker boxes to hold all the prismarine once I mine down that monument. Which I guess means I'm going to have to sort through all this mess to get all the shulker boxes back. And here's our first end city. And it looks like it's even got a boat, so that's pretty nice. And now that I'm here, I can start to kill some shulkers. I really like having fire aspect on my sword, but when it comes to fighting things like shulker boxes and endermen that teleport away with the fire, it can get pretty annoying. So basically, if you're in the end, fire aspect is completely useless. Now that I have a pretty decent villager set up, I don't think there's really anything too exciting I can get from here, but I might as well loot them anyway. The elytra, however, is definitely something I want to take. And the dragon head, of course. And that's pretty much it for this end city. I only got 19 shulker shells, which definitely won't be enough, so I'll have to go find a few more. I didn't have any gunpowder to make rockets, and also didn't really feel like getting any, so instead I just brought some ice so I can riptide between the islands. Of course, it works a lot better if you wore an elytra. That's unfortunate. I'm just kidding, I'm not that bad. Anyway, let's go get some shulker shells. Just like a lot of things I do, I ended up getting a little bit carried away again. This may not look like that many shulker shells, but it's actually enough to make like 240 something boxes, so that should last a while. I left most of the diamond tools and armor behind. I pretty much only picked up stuff that I thought was really good, like this maxed out diamond pick, and a bunch of other stuff like that. And then I also picked up another 11 elytras, so overall pretty good end busting session. But with that taken care of, it's time to get back to work on the monument. But before I can take this thing down, I'm gonna have to drain the whole thing. Which is basically just a bunch more sponge placing. And after draining the entire area around the monument, doing this seems really easy. This is also a brand new experience for the monument as well, because it's never had sponges in it before. Most of these rooms only take a sponge or two to clear out, but some of them like this one here require a little bit more work, which is fine as long as I don't have to build any more sand walls. And it looks like I actually forgot to get the gold when I raided this one. It's not the best loot you can get from structures, but I guess sponges are the main thing from here. I probably missed a room or two, but I think I have the whole thing drained now. So I'll just quickly set up a beacon. And then set it to haste 2 so we can mine this thing down a lot faster. And with that in place, we're finally ready to flatten this area. All that's left now is this little piece in the middle. Now that the monument's cleared out, I'm finally finished all the water and block removal for this entire project. And doing that was a really big task. Some might even call it a monument. I probably should end the episode here, but I did say I would do a little bit of building, so let's just do a few quick things. Starting by continuing this glass the rest of the way down. I'm thinking just having the light blue stained glass is looking a little bit plain, so I thought it'd be cool if we added a blue wave going across the bottom. I don't want the wave to be too big, I'm thinking just like the bottom third of it. And that is not a silk touch pick. Both of my silk touch pickaxes are pretty much broken, so I guess I'll just be mining it with a shovel, which really isn't that much slower. So this is the design I'll be using for the waves. I'm not sure if I built enough for you to get a really good idea of what it's going to look like, but this is what I'll be using. I really wish there was a faster way of mining glass. I have my haste beacon taken down now, but even with that, it's still not insta-mine. I'm just over halfway done now, and I think it's already starting to make this place look a whole lot better. So now I just need to do the same thing to the other side. I have that all done now, however the parts that have blocks behind them look pretty terrible. So to fix that, I should just be able to break all the blocks that are actually touching the glass to leave at least a little bit of water behind them. Yeah, that looks way better. When building these waves, I started here then worked my way around. So the point where the two ends meet, it doesn't really match up too well, but I'll be building something here next episode anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The next thing I want to do is to add a ring of grey concrete both on the top and the bottom. These rings will be the first step in adding some structure into the area, and then next episode we'll build off of them, decorating the walls even more. Using the darker color also creates a little bit more definition between the water and the light blue glass, which may not sound like a good thing, but once I'm done it will make sense. I'm not exactly sure why I'm trying to make these sound so important, they're literally just lines of concrete. Anyway, that's the top one complete, now I just need to do the same thing across the bottom. Before I finish up today, there's just one last thing I want to do. And that's the floor, because how it is right now looks absolutely terrible, and I really don't want that in my thumbnail. So I start by adding this big chain link pattern made out of prismarine, dark prismarine, and prismarine bricks, going all along the outside of the circle. I then surrounded some of the rings with grey concrete powder. I decided to only do half of them, just because doing all of them was a little bit too much. It didn't really look like it was surrounding the rings anymore. Next, I added a bunch of strange shapes made out of grey concrete, and I probably won't be filling in these until a future episode. After that, I made a smaller copy of the chain link design inside of this octagonal area. And then all that's left is to fill it in with some cyan terracotta. And this is the part that makes the design actually look somewhat good, because with all the stone and stuff in the background it just looks really noisy, so the cyan terracotta kinda cleans that all up. When designing this, I only ever built a quarter of it because it's completely symmetrical, so seeing the whole thing looks a whole lot better. So yeah, that's the floor design. Obviously all these blank parts are unfinished, but I did at least take out all the granite and andesite and whatnot and replace it with stone, just so it didn't look too bad. And in the next episode, I'll fill up all these areas along with building the actual Guardian farm. But that's going to be it for me today, so thanks for watching and see you all in the next episode.